All right, hello, my name is Mitchel Mendez, and I'm here on behalf of the Information Systems degree here at Neumont. And for my capstone, I set out to solve a problem that a lot of system administrators face while working in a call center environment. So in these environments, you'll be working with a lot of hardware. You're going to have all of your servers that are running all of your backend services, all of your employee workstations, as well as the hardware phones that they'll be using to send and receive calls. So for my capstone, I aimed to virtualize all of these aspects of a call center. So why would a business want to use a virtualized system as opposed to a hardware one? The first reason is that it's going to cut hardware cost drastically. By virtualizing all of these systems, it will also have it will reduce a lot of the hardware maintenance and IT overhead that is involved in maintaining these systems. And also, it will make easy use for the user as well as ease of administration. So the key features in my capstone is first and foremost virtualization. So I'll be virtualizing all of my servers and employee workstations by using just 5 physical servers that are downstairs in the IS lab. I'll be supplying each of my users with a software-based phone that will be tied in with a phone system that will allow them to not only make internal calls amongst other employees, but also external calls to external phone lines. I will also be supplying this system with a network and device monitoring solution, as well as supplying email to all of my employees. So jumping right into the technologies that I've used, for virtualization, I went with VMware's suite of products. So I used ESXi as my hypervisor, vSphere and vCenter servers as my management for both my physical and virtual machines, and Horizon View for my virtual desktop infrastructure. Now, just going over how virtualization actually works is you take a piece of physical hardware, like a server, and install what's called a hypervisor onto it. For this purpose, I'm using ESXi. Now, this piece of software allows you to allocate all of the resources of the hardware and allows you to allocate them to multiple virtual instances. So in short, you can have multiple virtual computers on one physical computer. Looking at telecommunication, I decided to go with 3CX's phone system. Now what this has done for me is it supplied me with a software-based phone for all my users and a PBX system, or this is pretty much just a phone system. And this allowed me to set up all of the back-end networking and to really make this system actually function. I used VoIP.ms as my external voice over IP provider, and what this has allowed me to do is just make calls outbound over the internet. A couple of the other server types that I am using, I'm just going to go over a couple here. Active Directory I'm using for the authentication and management of my users and groups. Microsoft Exchange is my email service that I'll be setting up for all my employees. And I'm also using Paceler Router Traffic Grapher for my monitoring solution. So now I'm going to walk you through how my system actually works. So when an employee comes into work, they'll sit down and log on to what is called a thin client. Now what this is it's a small, inexpensive computer that all it needs is a connection to the network, and it'll be able to access one of my virtual desktops. So on that thin client, I will install a client that will be able to talk to my virtual desktop server. And they will log in using their credentials from Active Directory. It'll then be authenticated off of my Active Directory server, and then communicate with vCenter to request a remote connection to one of the desktops that I've set up in a pool. Now, all of these desktops I have configured from a single golden image that contains all of the software and configurations that an employee will need to get their work done for the day. After this, it will then be served up to their thin client, and they'll be able to access their desktop. And now I'd like to show you how all this ties in together with a live demo. So an employee, when going to my site that is available on my network, this is not public facing, they will be presented with 2 options. First, to install the VMware Horizon client, which I will have already installed on their machine, or to access their desktop via the web browser. I'm going to access it via the client. Here, I'm inputting my Active Directory credentials for the user John Smith. As you can see, I'm authenticated and presented with the various pools that this user is allowed to use. As you can see, this is the only one available to this user, and this is the one I have specifically set up for my call center users. So we're going to go ahead and click Connect. It's now requesting a remote connection, and in just a moment, you'll see it being signed in as the user John Smith. As you can see, oh, right there. So now The desktop is up and ready to be used. Everything is fully interactable. Ooh, my mouse is freaking out there. So for each desktop, I've created an icon for each user that all they have to do is click on this, and it will automatically open up their email. As you can see, their username is already in there, and all they need to do is type in their password. And now they're ready to start sending and receiving email both in local and external. As you can see, this is a message I sent from my Gmail account. So also on startup for each of these desktops, I have the soft phone automatically start up, grab their Active Directory credentials, as you can see up there, the user John Smith, assign them their appropriate extension number, and tie it in with the phone system so that the user doesn't have to do anything. They're already logged into the phone system and ready to start sending and receiving calls. So now I'm going to demonstrate that this works, and I'm going to ask my friend Frank Gu to stand up and receive this call. So right now, the phone is pointing towards my phone system and out towards VoIP.ms. I don't know if you can hear that, but his ringtone is going off. Hello. And as you can see, the phone system works perfectly. So I'll now take this time and open it up for open it up for questions. One second. Yes, Mark.
I noticed when your user was logging into their email, you had a full local address in the address bar. Did you consider using DNS to resolve that issue?
Yeah, I can use DNS. That's just the way that I set it up. I can just as easily use the domain name. Yes.
So I noticed you're doing VDI, which is pretty cool. One of the important things when you work with like a lot of end users is you mentioned that you created one image for everybody, right? In a likely situation, it's probably going to be that there are going to be different groups of people.
Yeah.
One's like support, one's doing incoming calls. How would you change the user experience based on the kind of group of callers versus just one kind of golden image that has just like.
So the golden image that I set up is specifically for the call center users. If I wanted to spin up, say, a stronger machine for like developers, or maybe a toned back machine for like HR or something, I just have to create a new pool with a new golden image that was customized for that specific set of users, if that answers your question.
What kind of system either do you have or would you create to receive feedback based on the end users of that pool to create those images, so that you know what to put on?
I'm sorry, could you repeat your question?
So like what kind of system do you have to receive feedback from your end users to change those images?
So right now there's no system in place like to receive requests to change them. That was. Huh?
Email or something like that?
Oh yeah, that could easily be set up via email. Yes, Gary.
So I noticed that at the beginning you talked about having a monitoring solution as well.
Yes.
I didn't see any evidence of monitoring. And this is a twofold question. Why did you select PRTG instead of MRTG?
So I initially attempted to set up MRTG, but I was running into a lot of problems, and just in order to stay on track with my Capstone, like being able to get everything done in time, I switched over to PRTG.
PRTG is proprietary and MRTG is open source. Wouldn't it have been easier to do MRTG instead?
I found it easier to do PRTG.
Okay. So where's the evidence of the monitoring?
Yes, I just didn't have enough time to include it in the presentation, but I do have it up here. Might want me to sign back in. So what this monitors is a bunch of various different things for all of my network devices. As you can see up here, this is most of my, let's see, yes, this is all of my servers here. I also have it monitoring the desktops that are currently on in my desktop pool, as you can see down here. And what this will do is it'll just monitor these stats, and if any of these go down for, I've set it to 10 minutes, it will email the administrative account, which is actually also integrated into the email system that I set up. So yes.
Tell me something you had a problem with and how did you solve it?
One of the problems I had was I spun up multiple pools while trying to figure out how VDI actually worked. So one of the problems I ran into is half of my VMs would start up perfectly fine, and then when I tried to expand the pool, they weren't getting their proper network configuration from my DHCP server. And I just couldn't figure out why. So I went actually into the DHCP server and found that even though I had deleted all of my previous pools, the DHCP had reserved certain IPs for the pools that I had deleted and all the VMs that I had already deleted. So I had to go in and remove all the reservations out so that new ones could be assigned to my new pool. Yes?
So, totally non-tech guy question. Looking at this from an end-user standpoint, it's the guy that logs into the Active Directory and uses the computer on a day-to-day basis, in my case, in financial aid. Two-part question. Number one, in the event of a system outage or any kind of a connectivity issue, I still have access to desktop files and other local files and things like that I can keep busy with, waiting for reconnection or waiting for the outage to be resolved. In the event of a virtual setup like this, how does that differentiate, and is there a greater risk at leaving people kind of high and dry until the issue is resolved?
So the way I have this set up is that there's very little downtime if, say, an employee's virtual machine breaks or something happens to it. I'll simply have to delete the machine, just spin up another one, and they'll instantly be able to just log in and continue with what they're doing. Yes?
Why 10 minutes? Because most people don't want their user sitting there for 10 minutes.
Yeah, I could. That's just the value that I chose. I could easily just go and change it.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Oh, you want to take this off? Sit that right there. There you go.